this is Jared from Shunome, and today I want to look at electrical plans and graphic overrides in Archicad. Originally, this video was going to be just on graphic overrides, but they're so connected to so many other features of Archicad that I figured it would be better to discuss them in context of a drawing type. What we're looking at here is one of my typical electrical plans. As you can see, it's got a grayscale background and colored electrical elements. That's all created using graphic overrides, but there's a lot of other things going on. So let's step back to a blank file and I will show you how I set up electrical plans, and then we'll dive deeper into graphic overrides. Okay, now we're in an empty file. This is just the Shunome open template version 27.3 for Archicad 27. You can go to shunome.com/template and download it. It's free. You can also click a PayPal button if you want to send some money to thank me for developing it and encouraging me to work on it more, but that's all optional. I just want people to have access to this. Anyways, what that also means is everything I'm showing to start setting up the electrical plans is actually all baked into the template, so you don't have to do this yourself. But I want you to know how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the organizer. You can do this step from the navigator over here, so over here as well, but I want to just use the organizer to help explain something. So on the left, we have the project map. On the right, we have the view map. On the view map, we can click this button right here, which is clone a folder. And what this is doing is you're selecting something from the project map and having it kind of be an automatic folder in the view map. So you can say all stories, all sections, all elevations, all interior elevations. And what this does is it creates a link between the project map and the view map so that every story here shows up in this folder, right? So in its simplest sense, if I go ahead and make a new story, just call this one Pickles. I've created this in the project map. It now shows up in this clone folder. If I just had a generic dumb folder over here in the project map and I just dragged all these over, totally missed that. Let's move them up. So here I just made a folder and I brought those over. And then now I create another story and I call this Pickles Lower. You can see it doesn't appear in this generic dumb folder. We just have main level Pickles lower level. But if we go up to this clone folder, we have main level Pickles, Pickles lower. So let's go ahead and delete those stories. So we got that back to normal, and then I can go here and delete that. That link is great. And I'll explain now why it's so great. Is when you create a clone folder, not only do you pick what you want, so say stories, you also pick all the settings you want. And so every time you create a new view that fits into that clone folder, it appears in your view map with all these settings. So you can go through and pick layer combination, scale, story structure, or structural display, etc. And what that means is if we go to electrical plans, I've created a clone folder here. And every time we create a new story, all of these settings for that plan are already set up. So if you're working on a 10-story apartment building, every time you create a new story, this clone folder will create that story and have all these settings set up, which means you automatically have your electrical plan display all set up. So let's look at, hopefully that makes sense. Just ask questions in the comments. So the settings we're going to set up. We've got layer combination. So we're just setting what layers we want to show up. Scale, structural display, whether we want all the finishes, core only, load bearing elements. All this are videos to themselves, but just want to walk through. So pen set, model view options, graphic override. This is the big one we're going to talk about. Renovation status. Design options. I've got some great videos on design options you can go look at. We've got that one proposed scheme. If that doesn't make sense to you, go watch my design option videos. And then we've got dimensions, zoomed area, etc. The things I want to look at in detail today are model view options and graphic overrides, but I want to show all of this. For electrical plans, I have graphic overrides low detail markers off. Let's jump over to the other file and look at what that means. Okay, here we are back at our electrical plan. And before we get to graphic overrides, let's look at model view options. So in my template over here in the quick options palette, I'm clicking this button here, which takes me to graphic override. So I'm going to do this button here, which takes me to model view options. I have my model view options and actually all of the settings in my template set to be as plain English as possible. So for model view options, I don't have one for electrical plan. I don't have one for structural plans. I don't have one for architectural plans. Instead, I have high detail, low detail, markers on, markers off, openings on, openings off, biddable space. And so those are trying to describe what graphics you're getting and what's the point of that. So you can see low detail markers off. I'm setting the detail of so I've got markers are not checked here, so the markers are off. And then if I go to detail level of doors and windows, you can see I have them set to low detail. And if we go to some of the others, high detail, etc., you can see the detail changes. I've got here openings off, all the windows and doors are hidden. Sometimes you just want walls shown. Here you have openings on. So for this plan, if we just go through model view options and cycle through, you can see how the graphics of the walls are changing and the windows are changing, and those markers are coming off. So I'm not having to hide through layers. I'm just changing it based on model view options. And so I find low detail markers off is the way to go. So we can see where the windows are, we can see where the doors are, but they're all simplified. So we can still see door swings, we can see all that information, but we don't need to know what type of window it is or need a bunch of lines. That was really simple. That's model view options. For layer combinations, let's go here. We can see what things are turned on and off. So you can pause the video and scroll through here to see what I've turned on and off. Big thing is I turn on a lot of electrical stuff. I turn on some mechanical things. I show appliances. I show furniture in there as well. Then there's a whole bunch of things, obviously, that I turn off, right? So again, this is personal preference, but I don't need to see door trim, but I want to know where the dining room table is or where I think the dining room table is. Super simple, but worth paying attention to. Okay, now let's get to graphic overrides. So click the button here. I've got the graphic override combination, which has a bunch of rules. And if we look at these rules, we're going to start with the less exciting ones that go down to the grayscale stuff. So we got zone fills empty. That is just taking my zones and making the background fills empty. So showing that in let's go to the floor plan really quick. So here's my floor plan. If I look at this one, I've got that zone fills empty. If I change this to no overrides, you'll see suddenly big blocks of color everywhere because the zones are on and their backgrounds are not turned out. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back to this. Let's go back to here. So managing the rules, the criteria is element is zone, and then we're making the fill type. This is cover fill, changing it to background fill, and then we're changing the background fill pen to transparent. A note here, this is drafting fill right here, drafting fill. This is cover fill. This is cut fill. So when you're overriding fills, you can control what type of fill you're overriding. Okay, next, uniform furniture. I love this rule. What it's saying is we're taking all element types, and if the layer name contains furniture, I could do layer is furniture, but I like contains because if I ever create another layer, it could be furniture dot owner supplied or furniture dot fancy, whatever. This uniform furniture graphic override will still apply to it because it's not so specific. What this is doing is saying everything that meets this layer criteria, make it gray, make it a background fill, make all the fills, make cut fills white, and then override pen color and thickness. So what that means is anything let's go to the electrical plan. Remember where it is. It's at the bottom. Okay, so if I go to, let's just go pick anything. Let's say this, no, that's swimming pool, sure. We're gonna pick this. No, that's still dumb. Residential equipment. Okay, perfect. This coffee maker. Let's do that one. If I put this on the Archicad layer and I place it, you can see, let's just go ahead and make the contour pen something just for illustrative purposes. Okay. So, oh, okay. There's another, let's go no overrides. So you can see that it's orange there, right? Let's go to default. Okay. So here it's orange. Now if I put this on the furniture layer, you can see now it's gray. I undo the layer, it's orange because it's on the Archicad layer. And if I redo it, it's furniture. Now it shows gray. So when you place an element, you don't have to worry about the pens. If it's going to be a furniture object, you put it on this layer and it shows up right. Why that didn't work when I had the electrical plan set is because there's a conflict here for graphic overrides is that I'm making there's this grayscale electrical, which is saying if the layer does not contain or does not start with this 6-space vertical line, everything goes gray. So in this graphic override combination, this furniture and this trees are actually redundant because it's already being taken care of by this graphic override. This trees thing is very similar to the furniture, which is if this is the layer, then make it all grow gray and white. Oh, and then this one down here is great. Hide model contours. I've talked about that in another video. This just means when you see it in 3D or if you cut through it, you don't see edges. Check out my video on that. I'll put a link in the description if I remember to, or Madeline can place a link up on the screen if she remembers. We've got fills going empty. We've got grayscale, making everything grayscale. And then the real fun stuff here, these grayscale electrical equipment, outlets, switches, fans, etc. What this is doing is saying, if this is the layer, then make things green. If this is the layer and this is the Archicad classification, make it orange. If this is the layer, make it blue. You know, if it's green and it's not a switching device, or sorry, if it's this layer and it's not a switching device, make it that. So what we have here is a combination of layer and Archicad classification. You're setting it. So Archicad classification is switch, it's on switches and outlets, it goes blue. If this classification is not switching device and it's on that layer, then it goes green. And what that allows is all of this stuff. I don't have to worry about the pen settings, it just shows up automatically. And then more importantly, if I say, let's just draw a beam, we'll put it on the Archicad layer to start. If I draw this beam and get, here, if I put this on the electrical light fixtures layer, it automatically turns the right color. If I put this on the switch and outlet color, you can see it's green. And if I go to the classification, to change the classification, classification, and I say this is a switching device, now it goes blue. What that means is ideally you're using all the Archicad objects. So here's the switch that I use. That's going to show up correctly blue. And here's the light. But sometimes, like this, which is my plug mold, it's just a beam. I just want it to show up nicely in elevation. I want to be able to show it a plan. It's a beam, and I just have it set up properly, classified as an outlet, and it's all good. Similar here, we've got the orange fan to make that pop, but if we go to default zones, that disappears, and it's no longer overridden. It just shows up with black because that's what I needed to show up. You can see here also as I switch between graphic overrides, these switching lines and this text stay blue because they're just regular text and splines that have their endset set not by graphic overrides. Whereas if we go back, that and everything else switches. So that really covers the overall basics of what I wanted to talk about in this video. So let's just wrap up with a couple of bonus thoughts. So one, because I do everything in color, one of the things I like to do is add background fills to some text to highlight some things like, for instance, upgrade electrical service or level 2 charger, or other notes in a slightly different color to be like, hey, here's where the mini split is, here's information about it, but please verify with owner because let's double check that. So similar things there. I like to use this. This is a centerline object. It's in my template with permission from James Murray of OnLand. It's such an incredible object to just be able to have a centerline with the CL on either side and change fonts and everything. Such a great little object. What else? Oh, here is an example of I use the mirror object, or I use the picture object, and then I set the image to not be painting, but to be a JPEG that looks like a mirror. So I have a mirror, and then I set the graphic, or I set the classification to light fixture and put it on my electrical light fixture layer so that it shows up and schedules as a light fixture. So that's another thing. If we jump over to my electrical plan and we pick the right one, this schedule right here, open source view, scheme settings, is taking anything with classification lamp, light fixture, and is set to show on schedule and is new. So, and then it, gives all that information and it shows the location. And this is, I think I have a video on schedules. If not, I'll record one. Anyways, the point being, this creates my lighting schedule, and I can create the lighting schedule using elements that are not lamp objects, or what are they called? Yeah, lamp objects in Archicad, because it's based on classification. So I hope that makes sense. I'm creating a lighting schedule, and by having it set by classification, I can use whatever elements I want, and I don't have to worry about layer. Yeah, element type. So we have that. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about on this file. Let's go over to this other project. A couple other things. So here, one thing I do regularly is I put electrical boxes in there. So it's just a dumb cube object, but I do have a favorite in my template, which is basically standard size for electrical service in the US. So I can place that in a project. And then this, I modeled this up just because I wanted to be able to show the client where their new service on the exterior is going to be. I need to make this an object. I'll probably just copy and paste it between files a couple times. I know some friends like Patrick May of Forwarding Proof, I think, has something like this you can go and get from him. But it's little stuff like this, which is just good to show in files. And then with graphic overrides, electrical equipment, look at this graphic override. If it's on the electrical equipment layer, then it goes green. This is on the electrical equipment layer, so it goes green. So again, just visually, it's easy to see, okay, there's some electrical service things. There's a plug mold object again, moving over. Here's the air return, that's ductwork. So this right here, it's okay to use fills sometime. This is just a simple fill electrical annotation layer, just showing where heated floors are. It follows the logic of everything else, but is just dumb, and that's okay. Down here, what I want to point out is I've used the beam tool to show ductwork. And then, is this a graphic override or not? I don't think. Yeah, so this is just a cover fill. I'm not using graphic overrides for it because I was being fast and lazy. And this is the first time on a project I've shown ductwork like this, and I wanted to just try it. If this becomes a regular thing, I will then create a graphic override for it. But this is where this is going, right? Once all this stuff becomes automatic and you're taking your, you're choosing lights and you're just picking from favorites, and these favorites already say have the ID set up. Archicad has an error that it should just be exclude home story. So if I go to lamp and I choose this, you can see its ID is F. Go here, its ID is E. The idea here is not only is your favorite setting up, okay, this is a can, but if we go back to the electrical plan and we see the lighting schedule, all these A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, that's all set up in the favorite. It's uniform across projects. So you're just like not having to spend time to think about what tag should my can be. It's an A. What tag should my exterior sconce be? It's a B2, right? That's all just set up. It means you have more time to figure out one-off things like how to show radiant floor heat, or you've saved yourself 2 hours in the project, and so now you can do a preliminary ductwork layout so that you can describe to the client how you think it should work, and you can describe it to the contractor and the HVAC guy. And maybe the HVAC guy will say, no, this is a bad layout, but at least I've started the conversation, and now I'm saying, this is my thoughts. You tell me why I'm wrong. Let's discuss it rather than just showing up on site surprised. So that was a bit of a tangent. For one bonus thing, I don't know. Here's again just another rule where it's layer name does not include these, and I'm overriding cut fills because what I want to do is set up a, let's go to, if I go to schematic design, I change the overrides to, right? This is okay. This is a good place to end. You don't need to know my template inside and out to understand what these are, right? Post-shade zones, post-shade zones, the cover fills color, right? You can click that pretty quickly and see. And so what I love about graphic overrides is with not much effort, let's say high detail, let's go low detail, markers off. Suddenly, with a couple of clicks, I'm just using a keyboard shortcut, comma for hide selections layer. I've now created basically a marketing plan for this project just by changing some settings while I'm just goofing around wrapping up this video. So anyways, that's the power of graphic overrides. Please ask questions. I know this is a little scattershot of a video. Download the template, like and subscribe. Yeah, have fun making cool stuff in Archicad. Have a great day.